Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. Short follow-on video to this, the Power Saver V1 from bwack. Now, if you saw that previous video, you know that if you use a 5.3 volt power supply, one of these, this one's 5.3 volt, there are many of these that work at 5.15 volts, but that particular one gives 5.3 volts, and if I was to connect this up and switch the C64 on, it will red light with that, you know, as soon as you get the spike on the power switch there, with the V1. Works all right in all my other power supplies and things, no issues at all. So, and I can use it with a 5.3 volt power supply as I showed in the previous video. You just switch, you know, plug this into the C64, switch your system on, or your VIC, you know, as well, and then connect the power here. And because you don't get the switch bounce on the, you know, the switch here bouncing, you don't get any issues. So you can use the V1 without an issue anyway, and it's reliable. You know, I've tested it for a good 2 weeks, no issues at all. But bwack has kindly sent me this, which is his new version. As you can see, it's not got the little PCB in line there. He's actually managed to build it into the housing of this here, and I love the way he's used this heat shrink. Again, he's an expert at the engineering side of these things, really, when it comes to use of heat shrink and things like that. He's done a really good job. It's really small and petite, you know, and quite stylish. And the PC, you can just about see the PCB actually just down inside there, and it's one of these. He sent me 2 of the individual PCBs as well to have a look at. And look how small that is. He's reduced that significantly from the previous version. You know, if you look at the size of that and the components on it, it's tiny, this replacement. It is about a third, as I sort of speculated. Yeah, perhaps about a third. Yeah, it's easily a third. Anyway, so there's just a few connections on here to solder. I think you've got like 2 pads for the inputs and 2 for the outputs. I'm not sure which ones are which without looking back at his message to me earlier, so I'll do that. And there's only one LED on this one, but the LED, because it's got this clear heat shrink on here, it shines out the back of it, so you can, in fact I'll show you that now. I'll just connect it up and you can have a quick look. Yes, so hopefully you can see that. If I just switch that on, I don't know if you saw, just like a little flick, can you see it down there, a little red LED? Yeah, so you get a little red flash just as you first switch it on, but it works fine. As I'll show you, switch it on, you know, it's no problems at all. That's, you know, I've been using this V2 Saver for a good week, no issues whatsoever. So the revisions he's done there to handle, you know, that the power spike switch there with a 5.3 volt power supply, they work fine, no issues at all. Now I understand he's probably, as part of that, he's probably increased the voltage threshold, you know, the tolerance there, before it'll cut in and disconnect the power. It might be up to 4.4 or 5.4 or 5.5 volts, I don't know, but that's quite safe anyway, relatively speaking. A lot of these MOS chips will run to about 6 or 7 volts, I think. The CMOS, well, the HMOS and stuff on here won't, but anyway, it will save your system. It's probably around the 5.4 volts mark. I don't know if you want to put a comment down below, Hans, if you can comment on that, but I'm just speculating from 1 or 2 of the things you said previously. There's also sent me some 330k caps, so I could actually modify this and a new piece of heat shrink tubing, which is really good of him. So I think at some point I'll do that, but just right now I've got too much going on. I've got stuff all over the place in here, yeah, I just don't have the time, but I will come to back to this. I've got the resistors now, which is good. I've got the heat shrink tubing, that's fantastic. Thanks for that, Hans. And I got 2 of these. Now I did ask for an extra one of these, and he sent me 2. I only wanted 1. But what I was thinking of doing with this is because it's a universal thing when you think about it. 5 volts. You know, you think about all these old consoles. There are lots of them that make use of a 5 volt regulator, or just a 5 volt supply. And point in question here is the MVS. This Neo Geo MVS. Probably well over a year ago now, I had a Z80 fail in it, and I'm convinced, because the power supply I was using at the time was a bit cheapo, you know, China jobby. It was only 5 or 6 quid from eBay, and the voltage level at the time I wasn't measuring it. I didn't have this little display on here, and under load it would shift between about 5.35 volts and anywhere down to about 5.2, but anything over 5.25 can kill the Z80s in those. The manufacturer's datasheet does say maximum voltage 5.25, despite the fact that many of the other components will go up to 5.4 or 5.5, etc. The Z80 will not. So I was thinking of take that little DC. I don't know, you can see it down there, the DC jack. I could easily do something similar to this. Get a DC jack socket and get a plug and stick one of these in series, perhaps with a bit of clear heat shrink again or something like that. This could even be mounted internal to the MVS there. The MVS, when it's fully loaded, is only pulling about 1.3 amps with like a multi-cart in there. So Hans did say this should handle 1.3 amps without any issue. So I'm going to give that a go at some point. But there are other ways you could apply this. I'm thinking maybe the Atari Lynx is a good candidate. Now you can do modifications to the Lynx there to swap out the Xena based 5 volts power provider, because there's no regulator in the Lynx. It uses Xena along with something else I can't remember. I'm not familiar with exactly how that circuit works, but I do know that in the Lynx, when the Xena fails, you get a breakdown on the Xena, and then ultimately your voltage goes up. It can shoot up to 9 volts or whatever the input from either the DC power jack or the batteries is. So lots of Lynxes die for that very reason. You could actually modify the internal circuitry there to remove the 5 volts when it's its output stage, wherever it's generated, and put one of these in series with that. So that's a possibility. You may well find your Lynx just suddenly stops working. You're like, what the hell's going on? You might need to take it apart to see the LED to realise actually there's a problem with the 5 volts line on there. But there's ways you could feed this LED out via a wire or something somewhere visible on the outside of the case. It might not be the ideal thing, like I say, because you can modify Lynx just to use a more modern LDO type regulated stuff rather than rely on that Xena. But you could still, it's just an idea. It's just an idea. Something I thought you could actually use this in a Lynx to save a Lynx. And there may well be other systems. Maybe you could, stick one of these in a Spectrum or a CPC or something. Modify the connections there that rely on the 7805, so that the output the 7805 goes through here and then to its destination. And again, you've protected your system from a potentially faulty 7805 at some point. Anyway, I'll cover that in a future video, but that was just an update really. No issues at all with this, really pleased with it. It's amazing how good a job he's done, compressing it down to fit it into that single connector there, making it even more in line than it was before. It's shorter. It's just really sweet, sexy design. Thanks a lot for that, Hans. Anyway, I thought you'd find that interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.